Hello lovelies, my name is Jessica at The Mermaid Reader. I hope you're all doing very well today. I am going to be talking about my 2021 reading plans and goals. I don't usually make goals at the beginning of years when it comes to my reading, and I find that throughout the year I'm kind of just reading aimlessly because I don't really have anything that I wanted to do more of, do better at, things like that. So this year I thought I would see how it would go if I wrote like an actual list of goals I wanted to accomplish when it comes to my reading. So yeah, let's get into it. My first goal I have is read books from my shelves. So I have about over 130 books that on my shelves that have not been read yet. I haven't grabbed a book off my shelf in a very long time, except for my January TBR, because that's when I said, okay, I'm gonna take books from my actual physical TBR. Because what I would do is I would either read e-arcs on my Kindle, or I would get books from the library, or I would buy books on my Kobo, or I would use like the library ebook app Libby, or I would listen to audiobooks. And it's just been a really long time since I've completed a book that's been on my physical shelf, which I don't like that. I want to be able to say I read most of the books that I own, because I keep buying more and they're still not getting read. So that is a major goal. I really want to make that number go down significantly this year. And yeah, that's goal number one. Okay, so the second goal I have is to finish off series that I have started. I have a whole list here on my phone of open series that I have started. How many are there? Okay, I just finished counting. I have 52 series that I've started and have not completed. Wow. Yeah, that number needs to go down. Like, I'm so bad at starting a book in a series and then falling in love with it and then just never continuing on. Some series I will binge and I'll just like be done, like the Queen of Nothing trilogy. I binged that. The Folk of the Air trilogy is what it's called, not the Queen of Nothing trilogy. That's the third book in the trilogy. How many times can I say trilogy? Okay, yeah, so I binged that, and generally series that I binge, like, I fall over the moon in love with. And then I feel like there's so many other series that I could have fallen in love with as well if I would have just kept going and not read the first book and then waited a few years before picking up the next book in the series. Because then I feel like I need to reread it so I can refresh my mind, and then when I reread it, it's not as good as the first time I read it. And then it's just, I feel like it's kind of ruined. So yeah, I'm gonna try and finish more series and like binge more series because I leave them too open-ended for too long. Okay, the third goal I have is to read more new releases. So because I get so many books from the library, I read a lot of backlist titles. I'm not always, I do have lists on Goodreads and of new upcoming releases that I want to get to, that I want to read, but I find when it comes time for their release, I always read backlist over the upcoming ones that I wanted to make a priority, just because it's easier for me to get my hands on books that aren't brand new. I myself do not have a lot of spare money that I can spend on brand new books, which is why I use the library and thrift books and stuff like that, because it's just not an expense that I can spare right now. So that is my goal, to try and read newer releases, whether that be as soon as it comes out on the library, or buying an ebook version of it, or using my audiobook credits to get a new audiobook. Like, I'll figure out how to incorporate newer releases into my reading because I want to be able to stay up to date. I feel like I'm kind of constantly living in 2011 where I'm rereading I'm reading all the books that I didn't get to when I was first falling in love with reading. And because of that, I feel like there's so many newer series and standalones that I've been missing out on because I'm constantly trying to catch up on the books that I didn't read from when they were published way back when. So don't get me wrong, I still love reading backlist. I think reading backlist is very important, but I also want to focus on newer releases. So I want to try and have a nice compromise of reading both of them. A good half and half instead of like all or nothing. Okay, so the next goal I have is to read more nonfiction. I feel like 2020 was the year that I really got into nonfiction. I used to think nonfiction was awful. I would never read it. Fiction was like the only thing for me. That's why I called myself Escape to Fiction. That's all I would read. I wouldn't entertain the idea of poetry or essays or autobiographies, biographies, like any of that, like that, or even true stories of crime. Would not entertain that. To me, it had to be fiction all the time. And in 2020, I finally read a few books. I read a couple stand-up comedy novels. I read books talking about race and how we can do better as a society to be less racist, which really opened my eyes to a lot of views that I was unaware of. I read a couple biographies, and I really fell in love with nonfiction, and that is something that I really want to explore because I've been neglecting it for so long, and now that I'm starting to get into it, I really want to see where my niche falls into with nonfiction, whether I prefer autobiographies or poetry or whatever. So I really want to read more of that so that I can kind of figure out what I do and do not like when it comes to nonfiction. The next goal I have is to read more diversely. After the Black Lives Matter movement, and everyone was talking about how, like, it just so naturally as white readers, we just generally pick books that are by white authors without even giving it a second thought. We pick up what we want to read because we're fortunate enough to not worry about who's reading what, to not look for certain representation. And that really made me think of if I myself was excluding a lot of diversity when it came to my reading. So I went back on my Goodreads shelves and I looked at the primary books that I was reading, and sure enough, they were all by white female authors is what I was mostly reading from. And I don't want to be just someone who reads from the perspective of white female authors. I want to read from indigenous authors, Black authors. I want to read from people all over the world. I want real life stories from all of the countries in the world. I want representation in the stories. If it's fiction, I want disability representation. I want LGBTQ representation. I want all representations to be shown in my reading. I want to support everyone. I want everyone to have an equal chance to show their skills when it comes to their books, to their writing. I am so passionate about literature, and I don't think it's fair that I've only been giving my love for literature to a specific category of authors. So that is something that I very much want to pay more attention to, is what I'm reading, if I'm choosing diversely enough to show a diverse set of authors, characters, synopses, disability again, and stuff like that. So yeah, that is a big goal of mine. The next goal I have is to pay more attention and not support problematic authors. I know there have been quite a few authors that have been getting a lot of backlash for their views on certain issues and for their lack of respect when it comes to sharing their view on certain issues. And I just want my channel to be a safe space for everyone. I want everyone who comes and views my videos to feel safe and accepted and know that I support them no matter where they stand. So I don't want to promote authors that have made people uncomfortable or made them feel less valid for how they feel on certain things. So yeah, that is a big goal of mine. I don't want to just blindly be like, oh, I'm reading this book from this person and promote someone who has done wrong in the community and has yet to apologize or show that they understand what they did was wrong in the community. So that is something I really want to look for, because like I said, I just want my place to be a safe community, and I don't want to support people that don't want to keep this the bookish and literature community safe and open for everyone to feel included. So the next goal I have is to read at least 6 books per month. So in the past, there would always be so many books that I wanted to read. I'd put like 20 books on my TBRs per month. I wouldn't share my TBRs just because I knew that 20 books is often unrealistic, so I would just like make shelves on Goodreads saying like January TBR, and I put like 20 to 30 books in it, and I tried to get to as many as I could, and so on. But so often I had so many books in my TBRs that I just got so overwhelmed that I was like, you know what, I'm just going to take a break from reading, and then I wouldn't read for a couple months because I just got so overwhelmed with everything I felt like I had to read at that moment. So my goal is to do 6 set books per month, which I've done again when I posted my January TBR. I chose 6 books to definitely read for the month of January, and I want to do that per month because I feel like 6 books is just the right amount of number where I'm like, okay, 6 books should be easy for me to read per month. I don't want to do more because I am in school. I do have a lot of social activities that I do, so I don't want to overwhelm myself in doing too much in one month, because then it's just going to get to the point again where I'm like, okay, no, I'm taking a break, because that happens all the time. I'm very inconsistent with my reading, so I feel like if I put a goal of a smaller number, 6, then I'll be able to achieve that easier, and I can become more consistent with my reading without becoming so overwhelmed that I'm just like, no, I'm done reading. Because I want reading to be fun. I want reading to allow me to experience stories and just be in a world that I enjoy, rather than feel pressured to read a certain number of books or a certain number of pages or whatever. Like, that's something that I put so much pressure on myself when it comes to the number of books I read, or like how many reviews I do or whatever, that it becomes a chore, not fun. And reading has always been such a passion that I don't want to let it become a chore, because I want to keep that passion for the stories that I consume. So yeah, so 6 books per month, I feel like that's very easily doable, and that way I'm not too overwhelmed. And I think the last thing I wanted to mention was my Goodreads challenge. So every year I put 100 books for my Goodreads challenge. I'm gonna be honest, I never make that, because like I said, so many times I'll do like a few months without reading anything and whatever. So that really happens. My usual goal around is like 80 books is what I actually hit. But each year I put 100 just to see if I can do it. Each year I fail, and I'm fine with that, because like I'm not gonna hate myself for only reading 80 when I wanted to read 100, because like 80 books in a year is pretty good. I think so anyway. But every year I set it to 100. That's just the number, because one year I'm going to get in those triple digits. I'm going to have read 100 books, and the year I do that, I will be very happy. Very, very happy. So yeah, so that's basically all I wanted to talk to you about today. Let me know in the comments if you have any goals for 2021 and what you think about some of the goals that I mentioned. I love chatting with you guys. I hope you all have a very fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!